I am here with Mr. Tim Smith. Tim is a guitarist, bassist, vocalist, songwriter, producer. I'm sure I'm missing something. He has toured and recorded with artists such as Sheryl Crow, Sarah McLachlan, Noel Gallagher of Oasis, and Jellyfish, of course, and many more. In the past few years, Tim has been part of the Lickerish Quartet with two of his bandmates from Jellyfish, Roger Joseph Manning Jr. and Eric Dover. And they are set to release the final volume in their Threesome series. Threesome Volume 3 comes out this Friday, May 20th on Stranger Danger Records. And, I say it's the final volume in the Threesome series, but, this is this is you guys. So, you may get 4 in a Threesome series. It wouldn't be unlikely. This is the final of that Threesome series?
Well, it's certainly the fun. Yeah, I mean, we recorded all 12 songs, at least the beginnings of them, the basic tracks of drums and stuff, all is together. So there's nothing else that we've recorded since then. There are a couple of cover songs that we recorded over the last few years that are going to be a part of a Japanese release later this summer. Yeah. But other than that, there's nothing really on the books. I don't think any of us thought we were going to be doing this for this long. I think it was probably going to happen a little bit sooner. And then obviously COVID hit and kind of changed the dynamic of what we could get done. Yeah. Ended up having to do a bunch of stuff remotely here to finish some of almost all of the third EP had some remote recorded stuff that had to be added, whether it was, I had to sit in this room and record vocals and bass, a lot of stuff, and learning how to use my gear to be as sonically similar to the things that we had recorded in Los Angeles. It just took some time.
Yeah. And, I gave you a little bit of time, the COVID thing. You're sitting there, you're writing in that time, recording. It was kind of the silver lining, you might say.
Yeah. I mean, I hate to say that because a lot of horrible things have happened, but for me, it was, I think a lot of musicians who are used to being kind of homebodied when they're not touring or whatever, it gave me an opportunity to learn how to use some gear that I've always had, but I've always been on the road. And it's like, what does that pedal do? Or just getting a good vocal chain of compression and a mic pre and stuff, and just experimenting with that. I learned how to do a lot of that stuff, learned how to best sing together with the guys, because we did a lot of vocal things separately that became part of other people's records and things like that. So it developed some skill sets that normally I would just walk in and do and not be an engineer for. So that was cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And vocals are, a huge part of what you do, of course, at least with Lickerish Quartet, and other things that I know you do, harmony vocals and stuff like that. Now, was it more difficult remotely, not to hear them all at once, put yours down and then, paste them together and then hear them? Is that a little more difficult?
It can be. I mean, it can be like a Pandora's box. Like if one person sings one way, it depends on what you're matching. So we sort of figured Roger did all the vocal arranging, so he would determine who was going to do what. And I think the three of us have similar or different little areas that we're best at. Like Eric is a freak. He can sing super high or super low, so he can kind of cover any of the crazy stuff. Roger and I have similar voices, but our timbres are slightly different. Mine's a little raspier. His is, you can get very specific about it. Anyway, so he would just kind of map out, maybe sing his part with some accompaniment for each person's part. But it then becomes like, and anybody that listens to Queen records or whatever knows. I mean, when Freddie Mercury and all those guys sing, they sing the same pitches together, the three of them, and they all have to syllabically come together at the same time. So all the details of doing that, it requires some time. So actually, for me, frankly, doing it at home was faster and easier to match something like Roger would sing than me being in the room with him, because then when you sing together on a microphone, if one guy messes up, you both have to redo it. So at least this made it so I could sit there at my own leisure and go, nope, right. nope, and nobody's getting pissed off or going, come on, man, we got to go.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, that it's, I would think it would be more difficult, but that's a great point, that you got what you got. It's not changing each time. So
Yeah.
you just got to match it. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty great. Pretty great. Now you mentioned the Japanese release. It's going to be called Fables from Fearless Heights, I believe. It's all 3 EPs put together with a best of vinyl. 2 cover songs. We got Sugar Me from Lindsay DePaul and So Like Candy from Elvis Costello and Paul McCartney. That's a Japanese release. I'm in Chicago. That is not Japan.
Right.
Will we ever see a North American release or some kind of release where we can get that, like streaming platforms or whatever like that?
That's a good question. I mean, that all just sort of happened quite recently. So we'll see. I mean, I'm sure it'll be available as soon as it's up and out. I'm sure somehow it'll get out to everybody. I mean, those are covers that we had done, and Japanese like to do things where you add a little extra special something. They didn't want to put out EPs separately because that's not something necessarily that folks do that much in Japan. So we were told. So them putting it all together. Plus, they came to the party sort of late here recently, and we're like, yeah, we're kind of done with this series of things. So if you want to do it all as one thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, it wasn't done to be exclusive in the idea that nobody in America would ever hear them, but at the moment, we've only given them rights to put those out in Japan.
Right. Yeah. And I know every other fan, especially Jellyfish fans, they're rabid and they've placed their order already. I know I have. Nice. So I don't know if I'll ever get it or it'll be 3 years from now that I do get it. But online things are a wonderful thing. The cover songs, great cover songs, really, really cool, unique to you guys. I think that really fits. Did you cover anything else?
Not really. I mean, we did a couple of things for some fans as sort of for fun that we were never going to release to anybody else. We have a friend fan in California who's been an amazing supporter of us and has supported us with different, we call them experiences on our website, where we would do covers or play on people's records or whatever. But he wanted us to record a couple of things. We did a song by The Move for him, and I can't remember which one it was. And then we also recorded Stumbling In, the Susie Quattro song, and so Eric and I did that as a duet. So Eric and I lovingly singing to each other, going in. At some point, maybe that'll come out. It's good. It's good. I'm the Susie Quattro. No, I'm the other guy. I'm the guy. He plays.
Of course he does with that range.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. But those were fun. We've done a few of those kind of things, but they're not really meant for release. They're more for people's home consumption, as it were.
Yeah, and you mentioned the experiences available on the website. People can get you to play on their record. That is a pretty unbelievable thing, really. It's pretty great that you guys do that. It's really cool. 2 songs on the record. You sing, right? And Eric does a track as well. We're used to hearing Roger a lot of times. How do you guys decide who sings certain songs? Is it the ones you write the bulk of that you sing, or how's that decided?
To some degree, it's that. It's also just whatever's best for the song. Sorry. If the song "Fortunately" that I sing, originally Roger sang that as a demo, and he just said, it's a little bit low for me in certain areas and a little bit high in others. So it's just whatever's best for the song. But there is also something when you bring in an idea, you kind of probably have a little bit written in your own sort of range anyway. Not always the case, but that's, it's a little bit of that too.
Right. Yeah. And, it's cool to hear Eric too. It's just, it's really a cool thing what you guys do. And you do play to the song, and that's what great bands do. Rather than this is my song, I'm going to sing it, it's good to hear that for sure. In the meantime, really special song for me. Yeah, I put that on. I can't get enough of it. Just everything speaks to me. I notice a short lyrical passage at the end of the song. It's kind of a standout. For me, it is. It kind of signs off and seals the deal on that song. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Because it's quirky. It doesn't fit necessarily.
Mhm.
It's a little message at the end, it feels like, and that kind of speaks to me. Can you tell me a little bit about?
Wow, you know what? I'm getting really chill bumps from you even saying that because I'm glad that you picked up on that. That is, I wrote that. I had a hard time finishing that song until around the end of last year. Um, I can't believe you're talking about that. It became an issue for me of as we all have dealt with things that have happened through COVID and losing people and kind of what life is all about. And I had
Hmm.
found this quote. Actually, the original quote I had found was a comedian had said this, but I think it's actually uh, to be quoted by Kant or something like that. That what happiness really is, or the key to happiness is one of three things. One, that you either just love someone, or that you love something that you do, or that you have something to hope for. And that those three things are the things that if you have any of those, that you'll be happy. And the song, in the meantime, has to deal with living in a world where things are just not good or whatever, without taking a political stance. But my personal feeling is that we had a rough time, and to hold on to your happiness, even if it means to sort of burrow down and kind of hibernate for a minute or a year or years or whatever, but hold on to those things that you love and or the things that you love to do, or the hope of something you can get through anything. So that's kind of what In the Meantime is about.
Uh,
And I kind of I've been reading that passage, and it doesn't really rhyme, and it's kind of like an odd thing. But the more I looked it up, and I realized it was sort of a big deal in as a quote, because I didn't know that. I just read this. I just saw this comedian say that. And I was like, wow, that's pretty profound to me. Anyway, I found it really helpful to sort of frame my own, when you're struggling, or when we're all struggling through things, and or even depression, or what's happening in life. That gave me a little bit of a, I don't want to say spiritual, but it certainly gave me some kind of a focus to think of,
yeah,
perspective. So
yeah.
I'm glad you picked up on that.
Yeah, absolutely. It gave that to me as well. I just there's something about it. Can't really explain it. It just speaks to me. I wait for that, and then I hear that sign off, that quote at the end, and the way it's sung and everything. It's a powerful thing. It comes through for sure.
Oh man, that means a lot to me that you got that. And it may be the last thing that we ever do together. I don't know. I mean, as a recording, and not to compare us to the Beatles or anything, but I always thought that the last thing that recorded by the Beatles, in the end, the love you make is equal to the love you, or
Yep.
whichever which way it is.
Yeah.
If that's the last thing you know of them, then that's okay, because that sentiment is the last thing. And I felt that way with this line.
And that's a great comparison, because it very much has that. It seals the deal. It's a finishing kind of, at least for the song. I hope for the song. I hope it's not the the last song we hear from you guys as a group. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's powerful stuff.
Wow. Right on, man. Thank you.
Um, the drums. We got you play bass, you sing. You got Eric, he plays guitar, he sings. We got Roger, he plays keys, sings. There's this mysterious drummer somewhere. Jeremy Stacy, I believe, plays drums
Yep.
for the most part. Jeremy recorded Eric Clapton, Roger Daltrey, King Crimson, and everybody else in the world. Was it ever a thought to have a fourth member of Lickerish Quartet? Maybe we could call it the
Right.
Lickerish Quintet.
Quintet. Yeah, we'd have to
Four.
change the name of the band. We always have to have a man down in the name.
Right.
Jeremy's a great old friend of mine. He was in a band that had supported Jellyfish when we were on tour in the UK back in '93. And he and
Lemon
I had
trees,
played,
right?
pardon?
Lemon trees?
Yeah, the
Right?
Lemon Trees.
Yeah.
And he and I stayed in touch he played with me with Sheryl Crow for a time. He played with me and got me the gig in Noel Gallagher's band. We both played in World Party together. Yeah, so he's just always been an avid friend and musical. He's just maybe the best drummer I've ever, well, he is the best drummer I've ever played with, but he can do all kinds of crazy stuff. But because he's in the UK, unless and until we were going to do something more, you know, doing some shows or something, he's just been somebody that we had play on the records. But yeah, he's our soulmate when it comes to the music stuff.
Yeah, yeah, it's and obviously a great drummer and sensational on these records. You know, I mean,
Thank you.
It's great. It's what he does.
He didn't quite remember when this third one has come out, and I sent it to him. He's like, I don't even remember, because he did all of his drum tracks, I think, in one day, maybe 2 days.
Wow. For all three.
Yeah. So we only had him for a couple of days. We flew him over from England, and you know, he's still a session guy, so he's really quick. So we just kept throwing him songs, and some of them we just had the outlines for, and maybe some, you know, you could play along with an acoustic guitar, but they were developed as full songs much later in some regards. So he wasn't even, he's like, I don't remember in the meantime. And I think I only had an acoustic guitar to play with him when we did that. So
wow. Amazing. Amazing, man.
Yeah.
It sounds like, you know, years of rehearsing and you know, getting this stuff down, and it's just, you know, he's just that good.
Well, he's that guy too, like the song New Days. We could say to him, okay, think of the band Love and Arthur Lee and that kind of thing, but also Keith Moon, but in a jazz way. Like, instead of hitting the drums super hard all the time, because he's a jazz drummer. And so it's very busy, and it's done on purpose that way. That's what we wanted. And he just nailed it. It's you can't even really explain it any more than that. Yep. And if you do, you'll lose the feel, because you're trying to tell somebody exactly what to play. He just threw a couple of lines out, and he just nailed it.
That's great to have a guy like that. You know, it's yeah, and all you guys. I mean, that's you know, it's what you guys do for sure. You know, I get this is Powerpop thing. You've done Jets, very similar. Producers, which, you know, I have right here. Great record. Love this record. Wow. You know, hard to find too.
Tell me about it. Yeah, I don't think I even have one of those. I don't even know where you got that.
Let me know and I'll get you a copy. But you know, this Powerpop traditional pop thing, is that what you cut your teeth on? Is that how you learn to play? Is that, you know, that's really where you seem to be most comfortable?
You know, I've never really thought about that. I guess it's just the time, you know, the period that I grew up in the late 70s and early 80s. There are always two branches of kids when I was growing up. I mean, we'd all listen to classic rock together. We, you know, and then as new wave and punk started to happen, I kind of branched more that way. But I could still play Cheap Trick records with my rock and roll friends. You know what I mean? Like, there was that kind of, and I guess that's what Powerpop has been. It wasn't a deliberate thing, but, you know, I mean, I saw you had one of the guys from Enough's Enough on, and, you know, that there was that branch in Chicago and the Midwest specifically. I guess that's what I grew up on. You know, I always thought I was into a little bit more English stuff, but there was a huge American, especially in joining the Producers. I was a huge Producers fan before I joined them. I was 18. So, yeah, I mean, that to me was pop music. It wasn't, power pop it's a tough one, man, because it sounds dated to a lot of people, but I don't know. I mean, I hear what's happening in like Japan right now. I was at a sushi restaurant last night, and I was like, this sounds like an Andy Sturmer song, but it's like little girls singing, but all the changes are like these power pop things. Yeah, so it's bizarre.
And that's what Andy's kind of doing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and he's very, very involved in that. And you know, of course, the guy's a genius in, you know, what he does. So, you know, that's kind of a pretty good fit. Is there a genre that you always kind of wanted to play in? You know, a Tim Smith funk record, or you know, something, you know, of that sort.
No, I'm not
fusion record or something like that.
the funk rock thing, I'm kind of the opinion of yeah, it's just not my scene. I'll just leave it at that. I'm trying to remember what that guy Nick Cave always said about the Red Hot Chili Peppers. It's like anytime I hear a song, what the hell is that? And it's always the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And I think they're amazing musicians. It's just not it doesn't come naturally to me.
Right.
I always wanted to be a little bit, I like a lot of bands that are a little bit more low energy, whether it was like the Blue Nile or even some Thomas Dolby stuff, or the Red House Painters. I don't know if you remember that band. They're from San Francisco, like as slow as you could possibly play a song, or even Talk Talk. And that guy had done a solo record that was maybe the quietest record I'd ever heard. I put it on and it was like, what the just something a little bit more I don't know. I don't even know what to call that kind of music, but just something a little less manic at times, I think.
Right. Yeah.
I'd like to do something like that.
Cool. I have the liner notes of the deluxe version of Spilt Milk, and in it, Roger and Andy both agree that New Mistake was the quintessential Jellyfish song. I didn't see anything from you. Would you agree with that?
For that record or for Jellyfish?
Jellyfish in general.
Yeah, I could see that. When I joined them, all those songs had already been demoed, and all the parts had been written. So I was simply just there to try and recreate what had been done. And some of it was actually recorded by another bass player named T-Bone Walk. So I was as much a fan. I'm just saying this because I was as much a Jellyfish fan as being in the band at that point. And when I first heard their demos, I was so blown away at how complete they were, from the little incidental orchestral elements to all the vocal things. I mean, they were just such, in my opinion, some of the demos I think even sound better than the recording. I think All Is Forgiven demo sounds better than the recording on the album for me. So yeah, that song in particular, you know what, man, it was like, I just thought that was going to be a huge record. I thought, and I was so proud to be a part of it in any small way. And at the time, grunge was happening and all kinds of things, but I still thought there was room for all of this, like a lot of heavy metal dudes would come to our shows and they appreciated what we were doing. Yep. And even when you talk about Powerpop, I think the thing that Powerpop, at least at that time, is you could have these different branches of stuff and all hold them in the same ball of wax, and I just wish it was a little bit more like that now, but it's not. And but that song was definitely, I'd say that's a quintessential Jellyfish track. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have one in particular from Lickerish Quartet that sits a little closer to your heart?
Gosh, that's a tough one, because our whole sort of idea was all of us would contribute together on every song. So it wasn't, and every song, it's not like, here's our direction. And even though, you may say, whether it's Powerpop or whatever, but every song had a different set of things that for us in our mind, it wasn't like we're just going to stay with this one guitar or this kind of keyboard sound. Every song had a different thing, because all of us have similar record collections, but they go pretty deep. So even the first EP, when it came out, and the song Fadoodle, there might be some Sparks influence or some early Roxy Music influence, and that was the joy for us, to be able to pull from our collective memories of what things that we sounded like, and be able to pull them off, but hopefully in a unique and original way. So it's just a fun project. The whole thing was just meant to just be an exploration of the things that we love. So I don't know if there's anyone that does pull out for me. I mean, I guess now Spaceship, because it was sort of our first release and it had so many elements of so many things in one, whether you like that or not. But
it is different. I think it is different than the rest of it. It's busier, definitely busier. I've heard you talk about furniture bases, and I
love that. That's a phrase.
I love it too, because it's perfect.
Yeah.
You got to get it, that high end thing. You like a bass with personality. And I know you didn't really love the Hofner basses that you had in Spilt Milk, that era. What is the ultimate bass for you? What do we hear on the Lickerish Quartet records?
Well, I have one right here. This is one of those Hofner club basses that are super cheap. I mean, it's like $500.
Right.
The only problem I have with a Hofner is you can tune it and play down here like you're in the Beatles and stuff. But if you have to go way up here and do anything slightly melodic, usually the intonation is not going to be good. So you either have to stop and retune it. I could never play one of these live because they would always go out of tune. I really like old weird basses. Like I like things that don't have. I don't know if it's back there or not, but I don't think it is. I bought an old Hagstrom bass that was actually also a similar bass that was used on some of the Jellyfish stuff. And they're just faster little necks. I can play a jazz bass okay. A P bass, to me, the neck is too fat this way.
Okay.
So I have one that I've shaved the neck down, because the only difference between a jazz and a P bass usually is just up by the nut, that it's wider there.
Okay.
Just something because I'm a guitar player. That was always what I did first. So
Right.
I need something where I can, I'm not duck done. I'm not going to be, and my hands are not gigantic, but
Right.
something that I can move around pretty quickly with to play super melodically, because I just grew up on McCartney and people like Colin Moulding, and just need to be able to express that without getting carpal tunnel.
Yeah, no doubt. Do we hear a bunch of different basses on?
Yeah.
Quartet?
Yeah. So, gosh, anything from Roger had a P bass in LA with a maple neck that I played on a couple of songs. I have an old Yamaha bass that I had pulled the frets out of when I was in the Producers, and used that as a fretless on several songs. And then the Hagstrom I played on a couple of things, and then a jazz bass. And then we also had a Rickenbacker out in California that I played on a couple of songs.
Cool.
It's funny though, with bass players, especially live, you can see somebody and they're changing basses every song. And I've had friends of mine go, "How did it sound when I went to the thing?" It's like, it sounded like this. Boom, 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 boom. And when I changed to the Hofner, how did it sound? Boom, boom, boom. Exactly. So,
yeah, I would imagine a lot of it is feel for you and comfort.
Yeah.
It's just, it's like an old sweater,
Gosh, I used to play one of those old Guild. It looks like a Les Paul. It's MD 85 or whatever. And it was so heavy that my whole shoulder would be numb by the end of the show. It's insane.
Yeah.
Fun to play, but it'll just knock you out.
Yeah, that's crazy. You played with so many people and you've done so many gigs. Was there a most challenging gig for you? Something you really kind of had trouble falling into, or anything like that? Anything that was super challenging for you?
I've said this before. I think Jellyfish was probably the most challenging thing I'd ever done, and the fact, and not just musically, in every way. Singing that time of my life, what was going on, the personalities in that band. It was not an easy thing to tour, but we had to rehearse pretty much every day. Even on tour, we would be in the dressing room. I remember we were on tour with Tears for Fears, and those guys would just keep like, "You guys have learned this. You don't need to keep singing it." But singing 4-part harmonies as an ensemble requires a dedication to listening in a way that most people aren't aware of when you're singing, because you all have to shape the vowels and things the same way. So it's a muscle that you have to work on. And I think it prepared me for everything I've done since. Has been not a cakewalk. I mean, I've had certain struggles, even playing with Sheryl Crow. What was great about that was I had to learn how to simplify, which is a whole other thing that I had, I was aware of, but as a bass player, it was like, wow, this is a different thing. And I would get into some different players. So,
right.
But I think just as a boot camp Jellyfish experience on every level was pretty much the hardest thing I've ever done.
Yeah, and it shows that, because that Spilt Milk record is absolute. It's precious to so many people, and I mean, everything is perfect. It's really, for me, it's the absolute perfect record in every way. lyrically and vocally and instrumentally in every way. It's phenomenal what was done there. All that rehearsing definitely shows. and
Thanks.
and the live gig, it was
Yeah, that was a whole other beast. I mean, and I again have to credit Roger and Andy to being able to break down the rehearsals to pull that off live. Not only, Andy and his incredible standing up, playing drums and singing lead vocals, but divvying out the parts. I mean, there were some parts where Eric would be playing a banjo and then playing a guitar and then hitting 3 notes on a keyboard. I mean, we weren't playing the tracks. So,
yeah.
And then singing these ridiculous, interval notes for a second, just,
right.
I'll probably be on my deathbed and still be able to sing the middle notes I had to sing on All Is Forgiven.
It's great. It's just it's always an exciting listen, man. I mean, crazy. It's crazy. Do you have a bucket list item? Anything that you've always wanted to do that you haven't?
In music?
Yeah.
God, wow, that's hit me at the now's your big moment, Ren, and like the song is,
it's pretty exciting, fulfilling career you've had.
Yeah, I was telling a friend of mine, I feel like I've kind of done all I mean, I've been everywhere. I've played with a lot of people. There's some heroes of mine that I'd still love to find some way of being creative with. I think that the great thing about technology now and the internet is that there's a gentleman in Scotland, for example, who is a singer-songwriter who found me through all this. And he's had other musicians that I love, like Mike Garson from David Bowie's band, and Dave from XTC, the guitar player. I'm blanking on his name. Anyway, so we've Dave. Sorry, Dave. Anyway, so I've been doing sessions that they've played on, so I'm able to be a part of those things, and it's just been amazing to hear that. And so things like that have made a lot of dreams come true already for me. But doing more kind of collaborative stuff like that with folks would be cool.
Yeah, cool. The trilogy's done. Any word on what's next for Licker? Is that it for Lickerish Quartet? Are we going to move on to another project, or any leftover songs? What's next for Lickerish Quartet?
Not much as far as where we're at the moment. I know Roger and Eric both have solo records that were sort of on the back burner when we started this, so I think they're trying to knock that out next, probably, for them. I can't speak to that exactly, but that's kind of what we talked about. I probably would say, and this is again without really talking with them, but it would probably be more likely that we do singles together, perhaps, or we do some fun projects like that. We found a way to record remotely now like this long enough where we feel comfortable with that. So we'll see. It definitely took longer just because of COVID and stuff to get all this music out, but we're all still working musicians, so making a living. I know that Roger's probably going to be back out with Beck this summer, so we've talked about maybe getting together in like Los Angeles and doing like an acoustic stripped down thing with the 3 of us, and maybe with a drummer, and playing Jellyfish songs, our songs, maybe some Imperial Drag songs, some Umajet songs at a studio or a small place, and invite folks out at a premium or something, and have us in a room and maybe even show the tracks of the songs and isolate them and talk about that too. We've talked about that. We'll see if we can make that happen maybe later this year. It would be fun to do.
That would be really fun to do.
Yeah.
For fans, that's a dream come true for sure.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, I want to respect your time, Tim, and I so appreciate it. I really, really do. It's so great to talk to you. I appreciate everything you've put out there, and for my ears and for the fans, and your time and your warmth. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad we're still making connections with people, and people are finding our music, and I'm glad you've been supporting us. It's been great. Pleasure to be on your show.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks so much. Yeah, and if you have another project you're involved with, and my door's always open to you for sure.
Awesome. Thank
All
you.
right.
Appreciate
All
that.
right. Tim, thanks so much. I hope to talk to you soon.
Right on, man.
All right.
Take care.
Take care, Tim. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.